You guys want to hear the intro for the podcast? It's like this. How do you learn who you really are? It's not found in books. It's found on the battlefield. There it is.
That's good.
That's how we start off the podcast now. It's not found in books. Who you really are is found on the battlefield. And today we're going to get in the battlefield of anger.
That is good.
Yeah.
I like it. Way to start it off.
It's funny because most people don't like anger when it starts off that way.
No, that's true. that is true. I mean, can you imagine playing that little clip before you got angry?
Oh,
It might
yeah.
change things a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyways, so well, oh my gosh, you scared me.
Did I scare you with that?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Turn it. This is so.
Good job, baby.
Oh my gosh, I can't. So, a lot of the names we recognize. So, welcome if you guys are a lot of you are in the men's or women's group. But also, I would love to hear from you guys. Please use the chat. If this is your first time joining one of these webinars, put a 1 in the chat. If you have been here before or multiple times, just put a 2. I'm just curious to see what this looks like for us tonight. I think we're going to see a lot of 2s. So welcome back. We have a 3 in there. Amazing. So if this is your first time, welcome. Tonight, Rick is going to do a session on anger, which he already introduced briefly. So Rick is the author of the book Everything's a Choice, also the creator of the Warrior's Way mindset, which has continued to train men across the globe officially, and also trains women. So you guys are in for an incredible treat tonight. Please feel free to use the chat if you have questions. I will keep my eye on that, but also make sure that your questions get answered as we go along. Also, if you raise your hand, I'll keep my eye out for you there as well. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to the man of the hour, Mr. Ricky.
Thank you, baby. I realize because you're using my PA system that when you're talking, it just shows me as a speaker. So I had to switch the view.
Good job.
Yeah, see? Awareness. This is why we teach that, guys. You guys all know awareness.
Teamwork.
All right, baby. All right, everybody. We're going to get into a big one today. This is a big topic, and so this may go a little bit long. Yes, there is a Q&A at the end of this. So if you guys have questions, I'm going to go through things that I hope that you're writing because I'm not sharing a lot of slides or anything. This is going to be a lot more impromptu on the fly. So please take notes and have your questions ready because at the end, I will be very open to let's work deeper on specific topics. There are ones on here that I know I'm not going to go deep in on that may be very relevant to you. And if that's the case, bring it up at the end. Let's go in together. Okay. So let's talk about just anger at first. And at first I want to get into something that seems obvious, but a lot of times when we do the power of words and we start getting into what do words mean, respect, leadership, love, trust, we start asking words and we have to get into well, what is that? What is that? Well, let's start with anger. Well, what is anger? What do we do? We know it's a feeling, we know it's an emotion, but what kind of feeling and what is it for? Generally speaking, when it comes down to what anger is triggered by, is it's going to come from, a feeling of loss of control or power. And it's an attempt for us to try to take that power back. It's a pain response. Something is wrong. I'm not okay, and I need to make it okay. And this is a response to do that. This is a protection system. So let's talk about 3 different factors. And if you are taking notes, this is the categories that we work in to figure out, these are the main trigger areas. And we're going to deep dive each one of these a little bit to make sure that we're do you see which parts in here is the part that gets you? First category is if something is taken, it'll trigger your loss system. Something is taken or something is lost, it'll trigger your loss system. So, right, taken or lost. This goes everything from somebody passing away and it may be anger involved in that, or somebody takes something that was important to you. Even abstract things or parts of yourself takes your dignity, your trust, or something important takes your heart and is abusive to your heart or whatever. These can be abstract terms and can still trigger anger. The next one would be unfair or unjust. If there's injustice or people are being not being fair, that'll trigger people to get angry. And most of you can relate to this last one. When it comes to relationships, it's unmet needs. There's some need that I have that isn't being met, and it's triggering a response. This is generally associated to relationships, not just love. This can be friendships, work relationships, any type of dynamic in your life. If there's a need for being respected, heard, something in there where this is important for me to feel seen or whatever it may be, this can also elicit an anger response. So power is a big part when it comes to this. And people all want to have some sort of sense of control. And so we seek some sort of power so that I can have control. And if you have control, this will also start showing what type of person you are. And this is where there's a lot of awareness talk. If I have control, I would do what with it? Would I bring safety, security? Do I have control so I would bring in pleasure, or do I seek peace? And this will show what parts of you that if we're trying to control everything, what are we trying to do with our control? This does get into the leadership aspect, which will be a whole nother day. I'll tell you, right? Like right now, that's a whole nother talk. What is leadership? But this is, if you have control or if you have power, how do you display what you do with it? This will reveal parts of who you are or what kind of person you are. And this also may be triggering why people get angry around you, because the way you are, if you have power, may also be falling into either a taken or lost, some form of unfair or injustice, or you're creating unmet needs because of the way that you're using your authority. This may be eye-opening whether you're the one on the receiving end or the giving end of this type of interactions. So let's go ahead and give away an answer. Let's start off with let's start with a solution and we'll work our way down, because I have multiple categories of step by step on what we're supposed to do with this anger thing. First off, for any of you, put a 1 in the chat if you've ever said this, ever. If you haven't said this, don't put anything. If you've ever said, they make me so angry. Has anybody ever said that? They make me so angry. All right, so I've got a few honest people in here. People who are like, they made me angry. That person made me angry. If you listen to the things that I'm saying in there, makes you angry, I blame other people for my anger. It's their fault. They made me angry. I want to share something with you, just a perspective that has helped pull the Incredible Hulk out of a lot of arguments. Whenever you're giving somebody this much power and this much control over you, you are not in a opponent or an enemy situation. You are not having a conflict. This is not your opponent or enemy. This is your master. You are not arguing with somebody in a level playing field. This person now has control over your feelings. They now have control over your emotions. And so this is no longer your opponent. This is your master. And this is why you are made to be angry. They made you do it. They control your anger. This is something that a lot of you who have that ego, that's like, you will not tell me what to do. You can't tell me I can't do something. Well, this is going to trigger this area where like, well, it looks like they told you to get angry and you did whatever they told you to. Some of you are like, I don't like that. I don't like that. You're like, I don't like that feeling. Don't tell me that one. This is your master? No, nobody's my master, right? But if I give them control, they have power over me. And if I relinquish control, then I don't have it. And this is why blame is such an interesting thing, because we're giving so much power away. Now, let's go into a couple obvious things that I'm not going to go too deep into, but some of you will relate to. Are there factors for anger that are not as absolute for universal? Are there cultural factors? Is there upbringing factors? Of course there are. Let me give you an example of one, and you guys tell me if you guys can relate to this at all. We grew up in Detroit, and we grew up in a tough environment. Whenever I talk to people who grew up in abusive homes or they've been to war, or they grew up even in the hood, like tough, like impoverished areas, there's usually a culture of aggression or even respect is critical for survival. There's a lot more aggressive conversations, a lot tougher tones, meaner demeanors. And my uncle, when we grew up in Detroit, he explained it to me in a way that some of you can relate. Why is it that we lean into anger just as a culture? Well, in our house, my uncle said, if we were driving, and my grandpa or even my dad, if they were driving in the car and we were being too loud, we were playing around, laughing, ha ha ha, making a lot of noise, they'd be like, shut up. You guys are too loud. Keep it down. We're distracting. We're too loud. Some of you can relate. What about this one? If you're crying and we're just crying in the back or whining or being too sad and we're crying. Well, I'm sure some of you have heard this famous line. If you don't stop crying, I'm going to give you a reason to cry. Anybody ever heard that one? Go ahead and throw a 2 in the chat if you like it. Nope, I've heard that. Classic. Stop crying or I'll give you a reason to cry. This means there's not really any empathy in this one because they're not understanding you're sad. And because I don't understand you're sad, I'm going to spank you. So at least I understand why you're sad now. So this is funny. But then when we're angry, if we're sitting in the back seat and we're angry, well, angry is okay because I'm angry. And it's okay if you're angry because I'm angry too. That one was fine. Can't be happy. That's not okay. It's too sad. Not okay. But angry, that's okay. Created soldiers. That's what we ended up being. Now, I could go further into this, but culture stuff and things like this, if you guys have questions, we can do later because different cultures do have different reactions. So we'll get into the specifics if that's you later. Let's talk about commonalities. I work with both men and women, and I see commonalities. There are patterns that do seem pretty consistent. Now, this isn't judgmental. It's just observational. When I work with men and women, men generally lean into shame. Men go into beating themselves up. Women lead into blame. This is the give power away. It's their fault. They need to do something different. It's their fault. Men go into doubt. I'm not good enough. I'm a piece of crap. I can't do this. My motivation is gone. Men get beat up by doubt really hard. Women go into excuses. It's like, I'm okay, but I wish they would do this, or I would have done better, but this person got in my way, or if she didn't do this, I wouldn't have this problem. There's usually some sort of alleviation of responsibility. When it goes to the types of grieving systems we get caught into, guys lean into anger, which is today's topic. Guys go more into anger and women lean more into denial. These are the curses that seem to be pretty common. Is it absolute? No, there are exceptions, of course, but for the most part, this is the common pattern for men and women that I keep seeing. In which case, when it comes down to the control part of this, and this is the parts where we have to see, why are we doing this system? Why do we have that? It gets into what happens when we don't have control. Now, some of you are aware of this. I didn't make some of this up, but the correlation I'm about to do is the part I haven't seen done before. When it comes to not having control, we learn that we have to cope. I have to cope with this. This means there's something I don't have control over this, and I have to learn how to protect myself or survive or deal with this situation I don't have control over. Easy example, like if you're put in prison, for example, you don't get to just not be in prison. You're in prison. So that's a non-controllable. Now I have to learn, how do I cope with a unchanging situation? I'm stuck here. Well, when did we have to start learning to cope? When did we not have control? Well, when we were kids. When you were a little kid, you don't get to call the shots. You're 9 years old. You can't go like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm getting a job. I'm getting my own house. I'm 9. I don't care. Can't even get credit at that point. And so you don't have any control. You don't get to call the shots. And so I have to learn how to cope. Well, let's get into the correlation of our grieving to coping. And let's look at the Warrior's Way version of it. And I've got a few different spots. And for those of you who are listening, sorry you don't get to see this, but I'm dropping them in the chat. There's different sections. You got denial, bargaining, anger, depression. Anger, of course, is going to be the bigger topic today, but these are the 4 factors that go into when we're grieving, trying to get to the acceptance portion. Well, with denial, the coping part would be retreat. Run, hide. I don't want to deal with this. When it gets to bargaining, it gets into negotiation. Negotiation is compromise, or it's going to be, we get into the different versions of negotiation, which may be talking over, interrupting, over-explaining. Like, I have to speak more. We'll get into the negotiation, or even compromising myself in some way or shape or form for peace. I need to create peace. What do I have to give just to get peace here? When we get to anger, anger is attack. Attack means I do not need to defend myself against a defeated opponent. If they're beaten, I don't have to worry about keeping myself safe. Attack first, best defense, good offense. And then depression goes into surrender. I give up. I have no more fight left. You win. I got nothing. Now, there are conversations I get into which go far deeper into the types of curses. Just for example, and I'm not going deep, this is just give you example. Does it go deeper than this? Each one does. For denial, examples would be like addiction, suppression, deflection, masking, camouflage, makeup, the flight response, distractions, hiding my authenticity. We can go on and on for the different things that are associated. But right now, I want to stick to two words that we've been talking about. One is control, and the next one is a correlation to confidence. Control and confidence. These are two associations. So I want to get into the different types here and then get into like, why is it so common for guys to lean this direction? Because real talk, there are ladies who get mad. That's true. And a lot of times it's because of a lack of dependence on men, or there's been an injustice that's created that system depending on environment. But most of the time, this is my dudes. My dudes are just so angry. So let's get into some of them. When it gets to the control part, I know some of you are a little more visual, so I'm just going to start filling the chat up for you guys. When it gets to the control part, denial, the control is false control. It's not real. It's fake control. It's not real. I'm fine. I got this under control. I'm good. Don't worry about me. I'm good. What type of confidence is it? It's fake confidence. It's not real confidence. I don't need help. I'm doing great. I have everything together. You know, I'm as close to perfect as it can be, but the reality is I'm not okay. I'm not perfect. But I'm not going to show that. I'm going to hide that. So that's a safety mechanism that we've got there. But the control is not real. I don't really have control here. And the confidence isn't authentic. It's fake. I'm going to give you a mask, a persona. I'm going to act like I'm somebody who's got it together, but I really don't. This is like you see the people on social media who only show the fantasy of their life, but they end up getting a divorce 2 months later. Everything's great, but it's really not great. We've seen. All right, let's get into the bargaining part. Bargaining is a little more complicated, so I'm going to try and make this one a little short because we're not sticking on this today. Bargaining, the type of control is to control or to try to convince control. It's a little more manipulative if you look at the pieces to it. But I try to control. I have to try to control this conversation. And when they're doing that, they can do it by talking over or making sure they're speaking over you, which is to make sure they control the conversation as far as even over-explaining. This also gets into stacking and talking about 20 different things while we're having a conversation so you don't get to go. The flip side to it is when people start bargaining where they sacrifice themselves, and this is where they start giving up things just for peace. And that leans into a little bit more into the surrender aspect of it. But like, what do I have to do here in our bargaining scenario to make it so this conversation will stop? What do I have to give so you'll stop coming at me in this way, or you'll just be quiet? And we've seen this on both sides. Sometimes guys, sometimes girls. The confidence level on this one is low. It is low confidence. There's no room to listen or trust in the other person to be compliant. I don't believe I'm okay, so I'm going to keep talking, and this is not a confident move. Let's go into the depression aspect of it and look at that. What is the control and what is the confidence? This one's very short. I think, as you can guess, when it comes to depression, the control style is none. I don't have control. I give up. I quit. What's the confidence level? None. I've broken down. I've fallen apart. I self-shame. I'm sabotaging, or I quit trying altogether. Depression's a quick one. I give up. I got nothing. Now let's get into anger. Anger is the one for today. What kind of control does anger bring? It's forced. I will make it happen. You guys see that? I will force this to work. I will make them do what I want. And so I'm going to make you listen to me. Well, that's forced control. Now, is this confidence? Well, like from the outside looking in, especially outside of a relationship, it seems like this is high confidence. I'm strong. I'm assertive. I know what I stand for. I'm dominant. I have a sense of power here. I know what I want. You should listen to me. Well, from the outside looking in, that seems confident. Now, this works real well outside of relationships because he's standing up for you. He'll stand against anybody. He stands against injustice. He'll fight anybody. He seems confident and a good protector. Some of the traits that you've seen from that is how people do that. Here's some things if you're looking into unmet needs on this. How they do that is going to be if I get bigger, you see people posture up and get bigger. Ooh, right? Bulldogging, people bulldogging like this. Well, people do that. That's to be bigger, to be seen. My need is so I see you need to see me. I need to be seen. Okay, what about if they get louder? Why do people start screaming? Why are they louder? The reason why is because I need to be heard. My need is to feel heard. And if I don't feel heard, I will escalate the volume. I'll talk louder so you hear me. What about when they start doing actions? Throw something, punch something, smash something. This is an outward show of display of power. This is for to be respected through fear. Don't mess with me or I'll do something reckless. You better be afraid because at least that gives you a semblance of control, right? Back off. Problem is people end up backing off. And if your goal is not to be completely alone, this completely destroys the goal to not be alone. This is part of the gamble. We'll get to that later on. So when I'm looking at this, you're seeing the different levels of what's construed as confident or not confident. So when I'm talking about the correlation and why do guys generally lean more into this, not absolute, of course, some of my ladies can get just as hot as the dudes. There's no consequences. So it makes sense they'll push the limit for sure. But why do my guys generally go this way? One of my head coaches for my women, she mentioned when we talked about the way people have to suppress. And they start off generally, most people go into the denial aspect. It starts there with suppressing my emotions. And I think a lot of you can identify with I pushed it down. If I'm sad, I'm mad, I'm whatever. I push it down and I'm just going to push that down. I'm going to bottle it up. I'm going to cork it off. We're not going to talk about that. Well, what they were saying, like when it comes to being suppressed like that, the girls generally have a lot less suppressed emotions, just societally, so at least Western culture. When a little girl is crying, it's okay, honey. It's okay. It's okay if you cry. Let it out. It's okay. No problem. We love you. It's okay. Little boys are crying. Stop crying. You're being a little wuss right now. I need you to man up. And so we learn very quickly that our sadness or our weakness is not a very desirable trait. And so when it comes down to this type of suppression of emotions, suppression leads to expression. First, we're taught we have to push it down, but then we just volcano. Now, volcanoing is going to come out in one of two ways. It's either going to go into the depression side, which is sadness, and you're going to be blowing up with, like, I'm just going to fall apart into tears. It's just going to come out and I can't control it. Or it blows up into anger and we take it out on somebody. One of those is going to happen. Very rarely do we blow up into negotiation. That would be rational. We would have control. We don't have control at this point. The volcano explodes. Later on, if you guys have conversations as far as resentment and where does that stand, generally in this category for relationships is where resentment is. If you guys want more depth on the resentment in relationships around suppression, put it in your question because that's not where I'm going with this right now. So let me give you a story about how I learned about this. When I was about like 15, I was hanging around with a lot of my friends and stuff in school, and I started realizing that there was not commonalities with the upbringing that I had. Some of the stuff that I had was far more into an abusive side than I understood. I didn't understand some of these things that now we understand with, abandonment, abuse, all of these different things. And when I was in like my sophomore year, I started recognizing how different my upbringing was from my friends, and it started to weigh on me. I started to let my emotions in. I started to figure things out, and I decided to share my pain and sadness with my sophomore girlfriend at the time, because that's what love is, right, guys? We can share our hearts and our feelings. That's what love is. And so I had a breakdown. I was like, I definitely have gone through abuse. I have gone through this. I feel I'm so hurt and I'm crying, and I'm telling her this on the phone. Do you know how she was supportive? She dumped me the next day. She dumped me the next day. When I showed my heart and put it out there, I learned out very quickly that sadness is the fast track for love. Nope. That's a fast track for getting rejected. I see this failed system. Like, you have to grow up, don't be a wuss. Or now I get dumped. Awesome. So thanks, ladies. Just saying, thank you for teaching us this one. That one went really well. Which means if I were to volcano into sadness, which is what this was, I just get rejected. There is no nurture, there's no love, there's no empathy. I'm out, dude. Too much for me. So I learned quickly sadness is just not the way. It's not the way. Yet when I started going into the more aggressive stances and getting more aggressive posture, that I don't give a F attitude, getting into fights or being more willing to get into fights or dangerous situations, going more into the rock and roll aspect of things and being a little more dangerous, I got a far more positive respect and attention. It turns out if I lean more in towards the anger, the bad boy point of view, well, that gives you victory. If I go into sadness and vulnerability, that gives me rejection. I'm learning. Thank you for all of the lessons. So why would we do this? Why would young men go this way? It's because of the way I explained, anger still gives the deception that we're confident. Anger still shows that we're confident. And this seems to work for us to a certain point. There's a degree that this works advantageously for us. It's in our favor. But if I show sadness, it's rejection. If I show over-explaining and talking too much, people just don't listen and shut down. And if I'm fake, it eventually gets exposed. Anger is the only option that us guys really have. And then when you get in a relationship, it's shamed and it's put down and you're told that you're abusive and you're mean and you're not good, which leaves which options for us to be able to control this? We don't have any outlets there. There are no emotions that don't get judged or shamed in this way. And so we can't show confidence in that way. This is where I've heard the saying, I love it when my man is the rock for our family. He's the rock. Not Dwayne Johnson, the rock. I mean, like the rock in our house. He's the rock in the family, the pillar we can lean on. What emotions do rocks have? If he's my rock, what emotions do rocks have? There's none. And so this is why guys are struggling. This is why our suicide rate is so high, is our isolation combined with you have to suppress everything that you have. This is why it's really tough. So guys are leaning towards anger. So now I want to get into some steps. That's a lot of conversation already. We've gone in like almost 30 minutes now. I need some explanation. Thank you for that. I didn't know about the coping combined with grieving, combined with how the confidence is. Thank you. Cool. Give me some steps before we keep going. I need some tools. Let's get into some tools. Step 1. What do I do when I'm in a control or a power dynamic that is not serving? What do I look for? Instead of getting into blame, shame, or judgment, we need to look for what the missing piece is in control. We need to look for it. I'm going to put these in the chat for you guys, actually. Oh, that's for waiting room participants. All right. Step 1. We got to look for what is the missing piece in control. Not who is doing what. We're not trying to allocate blame. We're looking for what is the part that's not in control here. What is the part that's causing them to be your master? How did they take control of you? The answers are inward. If you're looking outward for somebody else did something, you're missing what's happening that you control. Didn't happen to you. It's happening for you to see what it is. So you can find the piece inside of you that you need to repair, not someone else needs to change for. That's insecurities. That goes into a whole nother level of injustice. All right, next. Second, be aware of what the needs would look like as a request to make agreements. It's important that we have to go like, what are my needs? This is actually trickier than some of you might think. What do I need is not, I need you to shut up. No, I need to be heard. You don't need somebody to shut up. You need to feel respected, heard, or appreciated in some way, shape, or form. But you have to be able to articulate that as a request to make an agreement. May I please be heard so that way I can hear you after? Can we make that agreement? You know, and then you guys go, yeah, that's okay, I'm cool with that. You go first, I'll go second, then you go, then I go, and we listen to understand. That's an agreement. Now, if you don't know how to explain it, this means that's you. You got to do a little work here. Look at what got triggered. What do you feel like you need for yourself, not what you need them to do? Because remember, don't give your power away. What do I need for me so I can make a request? This is important for some of you who are like, oh, I already know my requests. Requests are not demands. Now, some of you just said, well, fuck, hold on, wait, what? How do you know the difference? How do I know the difference between a request and a demand? It's going to be in the way the person handles it. And you may expose part of the control part when you see how somebody handles it. So if I said, hey, babe, can you get me a coffee?
No.
And she's like, what'd you say?
No.
All right, she can't get it. I'm like, all right, no worries. I'll go get the coffee. Was that a request or was that a demand?
A request.
That was a request because I didn't get upset about it. I was like, no worries, I got it. Now, if I was like, hey, babe, can you get me a coffee?
No.
What the hell? What are you doing that's so important? It's just coffee. Like, what are you just going to sit on your butt all day? You can't just go get one cup of coffee. That's too much to ask for? That's it. That's the line? Was that a demand?
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, please don't talk to me like that.
So even the mock-ups, it doesn't work. All right, but when it comes down to being able to recognize is it a request or a demand, it's in how we handle it. If you get upset because somebody can't do the request, you're actually not making a request. You're making a demand. You're telling them what to do. You're not asking, can we have some sort of camaraderie or teamwork here? And you can tell if you get angry and you start getting triggered by this, go back to what is the missing piece for control here. And that means you missed it if you're at this point and you get upset. Last thing, pay attention to the most important part for all of us here, willingness to grow. Without willingness, we're not going to be able to do anything. In fact, this is one of the main questions before I work with anybody in any groups. What is your willingness level? Do you have the willingness to do what it takes? And if you do, I can work with you. And if you're like, it's in the middle, call me when it's ready, because this is you won't do it. Without willingness, you have a one-sided dynamic. If you're the one who has to figure out how to make everything work because your partner or people you're with, your friends, your work dynamic, whatever, has no want at all to do willingness, well, then you're not going to have any of the essential parts you're looking for any dynamic. Love, grace, forgiveness, hope. You won't have any of these things, and so you're going to be just spinning your wheels. There's a lot of these triggers that are in there, but if you're looking at these pieces, this at least gives you something to work into. There's at least areas here to go, let me work on some stuff to get some of my control back. Now, one of my coaches is in here, and he's gone through all these phases of anger. He had his Incredible Hulk used to run his house. And so I want to pass this over because he also teaches a lot of how we deal with our anger in our men's group, on our men's side. And he runs one of the groups that's really teaching the guys, like, how are we going to get better at running this anger thing in us and having control? And we've gotten in some advanced conversations. So I want to pass the mic over to Ryan Thurber. This is our code name Forge. And he's helped a lot of guys rebuild their armor to be a lot more safe when it comes to anger. Go ahead, Ryan.
Hey, Rick, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, a little background on me with anger, man, I was bad. I mean, holes in the walls, from my hands, throwing things, kicking things, breaking things, and that's my own stuff. And I had to fix it myself, which is not the smartest move. But going through this, I realized one of the biggest things that I was missing was my triggers and the awareness of what they were. Once you get the heightened awareness and learn those triggers, whether it be, somebody calls you a name that you didn't like because, maybe a childhood trauma or something of one of your parents always calling you stupid or telling you to shut up. And then somebody tells you to shut up and you're just like, why? It's an automatic trigger and you just get, that Hulk will come out. Those are the things that you need to figure out. So then we can learn how to, when we feel it and we hear it, it doesn't trigger us off into Hulk mode. So I like to tell the guys, when your awareness is up and you feel a trigger, look at your body, like feel your body. Do you get hot? Like I'll get hot and my whole body just starts getting hot. My hands will sweat. I know that I'm starting to get angry. My face will turn like bright red. I can feel that like heat up like a tomato. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting hot. I need to go somewhere, cool down, get that anger out of me somewhere else, not with the person that I'm dealing with. Learning your triggers will help you realize like what it is. Like, okay, I get hot when they say, like, call me a name of stupid. Okay, well, why? And you ask yourself, how to get past this. Am I stupid? No, I'm not. So that can help bring that down a little bit. And then once you realize that those are your triggers, you can actually put little pieces on for your armor. And then the next time that they call you stupid, you already have that piece of armor there, and just like stupid, just like pings off. It's like ping, and you're like, oh, I know I'm not stupid, so it's okay. I don't have to react to that. I don't have to get hot and angry anymore because you're already covered. That spot right there is covered where it was a big gaping hole in your armor. And every time somebody said that, it was just automatic fire for you. And you went from 0 to 100. And that's where, I was always walking around at like a 7 out of 10 anger constantly. And everything was triggering me, everything. And then once I started realizing every single trigger that I had, whether it was names or being told to quiet, or even like, I was even so bad as like facial expressions, because growing up, I had so much trauma and whatnot. I had to read people's body language to be able to see like, oh, they're mad, got to stay away from you. Oh, that person's happy, I'll go towards them and not get hit. So then when like my wife or someone would be like, look at me like cross-eyed, I'd be like, why are you looking at me like that? Like, oh shit, that's one of my triggers. Okay, she's just looking, it's okay. Maybe she was looking behind me. You're walking through the bar and some guy goes over there and he's mean mugging you. He's not mean mugging you, he doesn't even know you. He's mean mugging that guy that took $25 from last week. I don't have to get angry. And that's where your awareness is up. Like, oh, not me. Okay, keep moving. But I really think if your awareness is up and you get to see those triggers, they end up stop being your triggers because you're so aware of them. They'll end up fading away slowly but surely. And you don't have to get angry anymore. You can walk around at like a level 3 instead of a level 8 all the time at anger level, and you can actually smile and be happy, not angry all the time. Thanks, Rick.
That's awesome, man. That guy's evolution, you guys don't know because we've gone through so much battle together. That guy's a warrior. That guy's done some work. So, like, super proud of you, Ryan. Well done, man. That's awesome. All right, we are at this part right now. I want a little vote here because, man, you guys know me. I can go, and I have a whole second part here that gets into a deeper explanation. So I got to see, are you guys burnt out? Is everybody burnt out yet? They're like, man, that's like 30 minutes. We got Ryan, we got Rick. That's 30 minutes. Can I keep going? Oh, guys, I'm like halfway. Can I keep going? Yeah. But if you guys want more, I'll keep going. If you guys are like, I'm good, that's all I need, then we can call it right there. Looks like some people, looks like they want to keep going.
Yeah. Can we maybe just stop for a second if anyone has any questions before we continue to move on?
Oh, you want to do a Q&A before we do the second half?
Just on the first part, because that was a lot of information.
Sure
It
as
was
hell
so good. It
was.
was so much information. So
Okay.
does anyone have any questions before we continue on? Someone please have a question at this point.
Just making it weird now.
Ricky, how are you?
Good.
Do you know who this is?
No, it says Randy Lemons, but I can't see any image there.
Redford Kickball.
You gotta take it out. Is this Baker? Who is it?
No, it's Mark Demo.
Demo. Yeah, you got no camera on, man. Turn the camera on, Mark. It's all that's awesome.
No, I'm taking care of the fam, but I was driving, and I love everything you stand for and everything you're doing. I do a lot of this stuff as well, and I'm just so proud that from our hometown, I hear this type of success and see the followers, and I want to be a fan and a champion, and just follow and contribute where I can. So keep doing your thing, man.
Mark Demo, man, that's awesome. I'm happy that you're here. I appreciate you very much for that. That's awesome. And bro, Book a call. Let's have some time, man. I want to hear about what you've been working too. So that's fantastic. But yeah, you're using Randy's tags. I'm like, I don't know. But Mark Demo, man, it's been a long time. I'm very excited. I gotta say, I was a little like when we would play kickball. I would practice so long trying to do. You could just catch everything with one hand, and I could never do it as good as you could. It was ridiculous. I was like, how is he so good at catching this stuff? So I was always impressed with your mad skills, bro. But like, I really appreciate you being here.
Hey, but to be fair, Rick was no joke. He was one of the top couple guys there. He's an incredible athlete and man in general. So don't let him downplay himself.
Man, this guy won't let me put my ego in check at all. This guy's boosting me up. I feel like $1 million with this guy around. Appreciate you, man. Awesome. That's fantastic. I would love to catch up with you, Mark. I really would. So like, if there's any way, like even on the site, I put my calendar on the site, grab a time. I would love to have it with you. That'd be awesome. Babe, you put the question out there. I don't see any questions yet. I think everybody wants more.
I'm just waiting for Mark's comment. That's all we needed.
You know what? I feel fulfilled. Let's keep going. Going. All right, Warriors. Let's go to the next part on this one. I want to talk about what anger is as far as a different point of view. I want to give you guys a perspective to see like what's happening when we start doing anger. So this goes into some of the training that we do, and I call anger the ultimate gamble. There's a reason why I call it the ultimate gamble. So this is obviously, if you look at anger, we're going to get into two parts here. We're going to go into how it works, but we're also going to look at why is it an oddball in the equation. There's a duality to anger. Sometimes anger can actually be good. Like, no, I don't know about that. No, sometimes it is good. It is useful. There is value to it. And other times it's really bad. It's not good. And this is why anger can be a gamble. It can go either way on this one. So how does it work? Anger raises the stakes. It escalates outcomes. It means it's going to go bigger. We're going to make it so the pot gets larger on this one. And if you win, the rewards can be huge. But if you lose, total shit. You're going to lose. Now, anger, the way that it operates more like gambling is go big or go home. You know, you're going to go all in or you're going to go broke. And so all of the emotions are going to be amplified when it comes into anger. Now, this is also going to get into the higher stakes it's going to be too. The farther you in with relationships, with love, the more important the person is that they are to you, the higher the stakes are going to be. And it's most likely going to start triggering fight, flight, freeze reactions. You're going to watch people have some sort of a coping mechanism get triggered by this. So just pay attention to those parts to it. But understand that your intensity escalates for more extreme outcomes. You raise the stakes. I'm going to give you an example on this one. Let's say your need is to feel heard. This is an obvious one for a lot of us. A lot of people feel like because we're making noise, we're making sense, but it's not always true. And so a lot of times we feel like we're not being understood, or we feel like people aren't validating feelings or whatever it may be. And when that comes up, people are going to start raising the stakes. Remember we talked about, if I'm not feeling heard, what do? We get louder. And so if I'm going to get louder, that's my need to be heard I'm going to force it to happen. Now, most likely defensive operation systems are going to kick in, going further into what has been triggered by you. It's probably going to trigger them, meaning using this response most likely will not get that need fulfilled, because screaming at somebody will make them shut down, run away, or they just are waiting for their turn to scream back. But otherwise, this is me trying to meet my needs. Now, how far are you willing to go to feel like you can be heard? Well, people start going all out at some point. They go, push all the chips in. I'm going to lash out, walk out, Hulk out. I'll make sure you hear me. When we start going into that part, either people get physical or somebody just surrenders completely. Now, there's a problem with the high stakes gambling point of view on this one. The odds work against your favor in the relationship. This means that even if you were to win that hand, that person's going to start to hate playing with you. When you choose to be angry and you go on the attack, they may choose to start avoiding you or dismiss you or not wanting to have conversations with you because you escalate it too far, and it gets to be a very undesirable trait. In short, even when you win, they can choose that they don't like you. They can leave you or they can reject you. That means the odds are not in your favor and there's a low chance of success. This is a house wins scenario. If you play long enough with anger, eventually you lose. The odds are not in your favor. You'll end up being alone or broke, and you lose everything that you just worked so hard to get on. The house always wins until you don't have a house anymore. This is how anger works. This is why I call it the ultimate gamble. You can only play this game for so long before you're out. And the longer you play it, the more likely you are to lose. Let's go into a hope point of view on this. Is there any way that we can have positive anger? You said there's not all bad, right? I want to change your opinion on one thing here. Because first off, are there positive outlets for anger? Can it be positive? If you go the Aristotle route, he does talk about anger can be an identifier for injustice. And if you're standing up for what you believe is right, anger is not always bad. That's one aspect of it. I'm not going too far into that because I'm not going in any way political here, but just understand if there is an injustice that is wrong and I'm going to stand up for what is right, anger may be a positive fuel. Anger also can be a motivator. This is where people can tell you, I don't believe you can do it. And any of you ever have that feeling where you say, watch me? Anybody got that thing in you? I don't think you can do it. You're not good enough. Oh yeah? Watch me. I'll show you. Anger can be a motivator. Only problem is with this one is once you start actually doing the thing, your haters that became your motivators start becoming your friends and fans. You really can do it. I believe in you. And then you're like, yeah, I knew you would. Oh shit, that was my motivation. Now what? I don't have any haters anymore. Now where's my fuel coming from? And you may have to change your system around. I want to change your perspective on another one. This one goes towards maybe the ladies a little bit more, but did you understand that when men are doing posturing, even when men posture to men, this is actually kindness? Now, some of you should have gone, wait, what? How is posturing and showing like aggression kindness? How is that possible? There's different levels of aggression and seriousness depending on how far we get when it comes to like people pushing your boundaries. But this is our warning system. Something is wrong. You're pushing in an area here that is not good. Your behavior is eliciting a protection mechanism. There's a safety response that's happening right now, and you need to back off or there will be danger. That's like having an alarm go off. If the alarm goes off for a fire, you don't go like, well, how bad's the fire? Let me go and feel it. You go, there's a fire in here. I should probably be aware that that's not good. So is that alarm mean? Is the alarm a jerk? Is the alarm deserve judgment? Well, it's trying to tell you there's danger here. Get away. And this posturing, it's designed to be like, I don't want to hurt you, but you're getting way too aggressive or hard or pushing too hard, and it's creating a need for me to set off my own warning system. People are trying to be taken seriously. They're looking for that unmet need. There's something in there that's happening, and they don't know how to express the need. Pay attention to these warnings. Because it's kindness, because they didn't start off with assault. Now, I understand some of you are like, I'll just call the police. You guys, listen, don't even do that. I don't say don't call the cops. I'm just saying you have like a 9-minute response time or a 7-minute response time. And if you want to see if you can last a full round, that's not a good play. Like, just please pay attention to the warning systems and try and be more compassionate to finding the unmet needs. Listen to understand. Go through the steps. What is it that you need? What are we missing here? I can see your warning system just went off. And if you're warning me right now, what is it that happened? Get more into concern versus control. Start looking for what it is that's missing, because they're showing you by posturing there's something wrong. And instead of saying you're what's wrong, ask what is wrong. What did you need? Because there's something that's missing there. On this one, I just want to remind any of you, it's not more important to be right. Your ego is not your amigo. And so if you're trying to be the one who's, I'm going to raise the stakes, I'm going to be right, and I'll shut you down, blame, shame, judge, guilt, I'll put it all on you. Well, your ego's not your amigo. What's wrong? Something just happened with your person. You want your validation for your feelings? Well, you should also do the same for them. What's going on with you? What happened? Are you okay? That gets you to the thing that makes it so there's no anger trigger. I feel heard. I feel respected. I feel appreciated. I feel loved. Whatever the need is, you'll start fulfilling it versus triggering it. So this is one thing I just want to associate. There's a separation piece to this. And when I say, like, men go into anger, women go into excuses, this is the way we create separation. They're both separators. Both of them start getting into the thing that make it so that we remove ourselves from accountability. Because I'll tell you right now, denial works real well with both of them. Remember I told you they make me angry? It's all their faults. Well, if they didn't, I wouldn't have to. Total justified, right? I'm okay. It's them. When you start doing this, these are separators. Now, with excuses, it's half truths. There's a partial truth. That person is doing something, but there is also a trigger that's happening on your end that we don't talk about. And when that happens, this is a separation from authenticity. You're not actually being accountable or real for your piece, which means you now have a piece that's going to trigger your negative responses. Because if you're ever challenged, you're going to deflect or go into some form of, yeah, but, or what about you? Oh, yeah? You think it's me? Well, you do this, you do that, you do this. And the deflections will come right away. This denial aspect or this piece of excuses just separates everything. It keeps people away. And you can tell that you're getting close to something that exposes the truth, not my truth, but the truth, when they start having a negative reaction. When you start seeing them having outbursts, that's how you know there's something that's actually real there. Go back up. Where did the control just get lost? What are you protecting? What is the unmet need? What the hell is going on? You want to know what's even more frustrating? They most likely will not know. In which case, now we don't have to argue. You figure out what it is that your unmet need was. And it's not what you need me to do, but what you need for yourself to be okay. Figure out what that is, and then we can make a request, and I've got your back. But right now, if you're just mad to be mad because you don't know what it is, that's not a me thing. That's a you thing. And it's okay that it's a you thing. Some of you are wondering, like, is this good or bad? It's good. I'm glad you got mad. I'm glad you got mad. It's exposing the thing that you need to work on. It's right there. You just turned on your own alarm to what it is that you need to work on. What do you need? And if you never do any work to figure out what it is you need, you're just going to stay angry because you're still in that lost system. If you're not identifying your triggers, like Ryan was talking about, you're not going into the 3 different categories of, was something taken, something lost? Is this unfair? Is this unjust? What was the need that was not happening in this dynamic? If you're not looking in these categories, you're going to blame everyone and never have accountability. And without accountability, there is no growth. And without a growth together, we're in a one-sided dynamic with no willingness, which means we're wasting each other's time. Because if you're in a relationship and the goal is not to be better together than you are separate, you're wasting somebody's life. You're wasting their heart and you're wasting their time. You both have a thing to do together. And because of that humility, your ego is not your amigo. It gives you guys a damn chance to grow and have a power couple dynamic. But if you think it's only one side and you do no wrong and you are perfect, get ready to be alone. Because you'll see the volcano erupt. Eventually that denial and that mask falls apart, and that suppression leads to expression. This is where you guys have heard, hurt people hurt people. We've all heard this. I didn't even make that up. We all heard this. Hurt people hurt people. I've seen anger. I've felt anger. I've been overcome by anger. I know what it is to rage out. I know what it is to have no regard for my well-being because I am so angry. I know what that is. The first thing I had to do is I had to remove any of like the possibilities that I was worried about, the futures, the fear of danger, or being controlled by somebody else. So I had to make myself strong mentally, physically. Make yourself stronger. Work on yourself. You have work to do here, maybe even here. You have to work on you. If you think that it's not you, then it is you. That's important. If you think it's not you, it's probably you. If they're getting mad and you think it's all them, there's something you're doing. You're an active participant. Having humility, your ego is not your amigo, makes it so you have a chance to like take a little control back here and actually be empathetic towards the other person and not just blame or shame or judge. Second, be more diplomatic. Try and diffuse a situation and not win. If you listen to understand, like really listen to understand, not listen to add, not listen to assume, not listen to create what you think they're doing based on the past, without adding things in to make it so it contradicts the purpose of your relationship. Well, my ex did this, so you're gonna. That's not your ex, but it will be if you keep talking like that. We bring in all of these experiences that we had from the past and blame the people in our current relationship. We blame our current situation on other people. That shows where your unmet needs are. This shows the things inside of you haven't worked on. I'm glad you're mad. I'm glad you exposed it. Do your work. What do I need? I need some time to sort that out. Give me like an hour or so to write. Let me work on this or meditate or work out or whatever I need. And I'm going to work on me. Do you have to be all alone and end your relationship to do this? No. No, you don't. But we do have to give each other some grace here. The third part is have some grace and forgiveness for your person. They've been hurt. You've been hurt. Encourage your people. Appreciate your people. Give grace and forgiveness for some of the stuff that they're having to work through. Listen to understand. Feel each other out without judging each other and saying, you're not good enough, you're bad. They're going through something, but instead of judging, try and find out what it is. Because at the end of the day, everybody is just doing the best that they can. Even if it's not good, just so you know. Doesn't mean they're doing a great job. But everybody's doing their best. So let's give some grace on this one. Those are some steps. That's a little bit more on that one. That's where I'm ending it here on this one. That's a lot of information. That's almost a full hour on anger and the pieces of how it works, and then steps. There's multiple steps that we put in there to be able to make it so you guys at least have a fighting chance, or at least the ability to try to connect with somebody else that you're with, the people that you love. And this is in all dynamics. At this point, let's open the floor. I would love to hear some Q&A. I would love some questions. And if you guys are like, okay, you said this, what do you mean? Or what about this thing? I want to hear about that. Or you know what? I've never been angry before. This is the first time I ever heard of that. That's crazy. I know some of you, this is the first time you've ever heard anything about anger. Never heard of it.
Daddy, where are you going?
Hey, Rick.
Hey.
Daddy, where are you going?
It's my first timer. But how do you handle, all this motivation when the spouse is unwilling?
You said when you have an unwilling spouse. So how do you handle the negative motivation when it comes to an unwilling spouse? I think that this is a really tough situation. When somebody has no willingness, what are you able to do? And I'm not being like in any way judgmental. I mean, what are really your options if somebody does not want to do more? If you're with somebody who like, I want to invest my heart into you, and they say, I don't care anything about any of that, and I don't want to do anything to make anything better. If they don't want to make it work, how do you make it work? This is one of those ones where I don't have to give you advice. I think you already know the answers. Without willingness, I don't know what we're fighting for. Somebody has to do something to say, I'm willing to do it.
Yeah, the children aspect of things, brings in a different dynamic. It's my first time, so I don't know if I'm overstepping or.
No, you're good.
But everything you've said, everything you've said today, I don't know if it's personal experience you've been through, but it relates and it hits home. Within this group, if anybody has anything to share about, this piece.
Bro, this is a great observation. The children part to it is important. Very important.
Hey,
I want to remind all of us. Oh, go ahead. You want to finish up. Go ahead.
As being a leader and, with what I do, my job is a leader of people. And it is being the inspiration to many people. And then to come home to, the opposite. Seeing if anybody has any feedback or input on that.
Happens all the time. I have had multiple millionaires who are gods at work, and they are literally servants. They can't do anything at home. They're treated like peasants at home. It's amazing to watch the different correlations between how we're so successful in one sphere and absolutely trash in another one, and how that can even be the same person. And it's definitely relatable. The rules for family, the rules for love, the rules for home are very different than the rules for work. They just are. There's no HR department for home. I bet some of you would love an HR department for home. And some of you would be like, I really do not want an HR department at home. I would get a write-up. Some of you don't want that. So yes, here's the important part when it comes to children. Yeah, Chris Mallory's, I'd be fired. So here's the important part for children. This is why it's important if you're in a loveless marriage or if you're in a one-sided dynamic. It's so important whenever I'm looking at people when it comes to commitment levels, when they start to move higher up in a relationship. Each level changes something. When you move in with each other, it's a very different dynamic when you're just dating each other, because now you start imposing on each other's routines and start getting in each other's way a little bit. Now you start seeing all of the things that you used to love about somebody start to morph into like, why do you put your stuff on my side? Why did you put your things in the way here? You should do this my way because I like it more this way. And there starts becoming more of a, you need to start compromising yourself. That starts to change the rules, but there's no conversation about agreements. It just changes rules and you start trying to adapt. All right, next up, we go into getting married. This happens more often than not. Subconsciously, when married, we start to do what we believe marriage is. So the commitment level of marriage starts to emulate what you have seen as marriage. And a lot of times you're going to start emulating parents. It may be hers, it may be yours. Now you're going to start turning into one of the parents you relate to the most. This isn't gender specific. If your dad was a jerk and you identified with mom, you may take on her traits. And if she was a punching bag in the relationship, and then you may become the punching bag in the relationship. Trying to do what is right, just want to make them happy. But they don't come from that. They had to turn into, this is what that commitment level looks like. The reason I bring that up, it's important to understand that we train our kids how to love. If what we do is what they see, when they get to that commitment level, they will do what you have shown them, not what you tell them. So subconsciously, if you're in a loveless relationship, they're going to start being familiar with looking for what a loveless relationship is, because it's safe, it's normal. That's what they know. And anything that's outside of what they know is uncertain. But it doesn't mean it's what they like or what they need. It's just what they know. And I think I would venture to say everybody in here has fallen into that at some point. I went into what I know, not what I need. And we ended up in really hostile or really very toxic or unsafe relationships. And I don't mean just physically, but some of them are physically. And a lot of times we'll also end up in emotionally damaging relationships with toxic people because we were associated with a toxic behavior growing up. Maybe it was dad, maybe it was mom, maybe dad wasn't around and mom never respected a man. So I don't know how to A, respect a man, or B, respected as a man. Well, great. That's an uphill battle before you even start. Thanks, Dad, for not being there. Thanks, Mom, for the teaching. Tough game. So it's important, if you're in a loveless relationship with someone who's not willing, take a look at what this relationship is and put your kids in that scenario, because that's most likely what they'll do the longer that they see it. In my opinion, is it better for you two to be separate and happy versus teaching the kids to be in a loveless relationship? My opinion would be yes, not saying get divorced. But I am saying my opinion is it healthier for the children to see happy and healthy parents versus two people together who don't love each other? Yeah, I think it's better to see them, that you two have a damn chance to be yourselves without being stifled or feeling like you're not good enough. That's my opinion on that one. Hopefully that helps. Good question. That's a killer question. And so this does get into resentment in a lot of different ways. There's a high level of resentment. There's also a massive unmet need that's being ignored there. A complete lack of connection, lack of empathy that's happening for someone to say, I no longer have willingness. Makes people mad. This gets into expectations too. You guys want a quick lesson on expectations on what the hell that is? Because it kills every relationship that we've got. Anybody want to know the inside track on a relationship killer? This is bonus, guys. You guys like bonus? Who likes bonuses? There's actually 3 parts to expectations. This is something that's happening in the relationship right now that you just mentioned. I want my person to be doing these things. There's 3 different things in expectations. I'm going to break them down for you. First, there's this one right here. Standard. Expectation standards. This is the comparison of who you were at one point. Yeah, you got to pay extra, Randy. Well, whoever, Randy, you got like 20 people under your thing, so I don't know who that is. But the example is, how much effort or enthusiasm did we have at the beginning with each other when we started to date? You know, when we started getting to the point where whether it be how much chivalry you showed or how much effort you put in for dates, or I want to make sure that I take care of you, I got you, babe, or how much enthusiasm did you show towards his things, or how much appreciation did you show for his kindnesses, and how much enthusiasm did you have to show the niceties that you would bring to the table. If those all started to stop and that person goes, I'm comparing you to you. You used to do these amazing things to have me fall in love with you. And then something changed and you no longer do the effort that you used to for me to fall in love with you. Yet I'm still supposed to be in love with someone who doesn't do any of the things that I fell in love with them for. And we don't see any problems with that. I'm comparing you to you. And you're not measuring up to yourself. That's a tough standard, right? The next expectation style, potential. When it comes to potential, this is the comparison of what you could be. This is based on past performances or how much talent you have or a goal that you guys have discussed. This is something that I know that you could do if you put the effort in, the time, and the practice. I want to get my medical license. I want to be a musician. I want to start a business. Oh my gosh, you've got the potential. You've got the talent. You can do this. I believe in you. And then that person starts to let those squander. They start to not put any effort in. It starts to fade. They start to get more into distractions or not doing anything that would be fulfilling those potentials. And then you start going like, hey, I thought you were going for your dreams. Hey, I thought you were going to try and do that thing. I thought you were really going to go for something that would make it so we have stability, safety, security, all the things that make me feel good. And then you stopped doing it. And now I'm comparing you to who you could be. And why aren't you being as good as I know you can be? This isn't me trying to make you something else, but something that you are. You just got to keep fighting, and you don't seem to have any fight in you anymore. And so I'm comparing you to who you could be. You're not measuring up. This is the most common one, and I say it this way to be a little bit triggering. Fake believe. This is made up. This is a comparison to somebody else that is either an idea or an imaginary upgrade to how you would like someone to be without conversation, without agreement, or even if it's possible or even able to be done. This is making a version of you that is better in their mind and measuring you against the upgraded dream version of you that they like more. This means you now have to defend yourself against the you 2.0 that they made up does all the things that you never even agreed to do, and somehow you have to have this straw man argument that never existed. You have to defend yourself against something that somebody made up. Well, so-and-so's husband does this and this. Why don't you do this? Be like, babe, we never even talked about that. I didn't even know you wanted that done. Oh, well, so-and-so does the housework without complaining. Why don't you do that? You're like, what housework? I didn't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? I just cleaned this thing up. Well, you didn't do it the way I wanted to because so-and-so would have done this. I'm not so-and-so. Who are you talking? I'm me, but you're comparing me and adding in traits from who? I'm not even relating to who I'm defending right now. In fact, the person that you're arguing is better. I'm not even that person. So who are you creating that I need to be as an expectation for you to be okay? Again, exposing that it's the person who's creating a lot of these. In this scenario, for the made up part, they're exposing their inadequacies. They're missing a piece and trying to get another person to fulfill that missing piece by them getting better because I shouldn't have to. No, it's a team. It's happy house comes from happy spouse. It's not happy wife, happy life. It's going to be us both together is better. Like, we're both doing something. We both have to grow. But if one person is making the other person need to be something that they never agreed to, this expectation has taken countless relationships. Why aren't you more like I made up you should be? Because you're not measuring up. Those are the three different types of expectations that trigger people to get really, really defensive. And the expectations in there start to happen too. And you start watching people get into excuses, and the excuses lead to negative reactions, which leads to anger. And when people are angry, you're going to start seeing all the things we just talked about. Because now what do I have to do? Defend somebody who I no longer have the energy to be? Or I have to pick up a dream that I sacrificed so I could pick up more hours so our family could have more safety security. And so now I have to drop safety security to pick up on this dream that I no longer even practice? Or because you're comparing me to somebody that you had a conversation with that you think that would be better, and now I'm not good enough. And we don't see any issues with this stuff at all. There's no understanding. There's no listening. There's no compassion. There's no empathy. There's none of that. No nurture, no nothing. Nothing's there. It's a complete disconnect. And we wonder why relationships struggle.
Can I ask a question?
No.
There's
babe.
a
No
couple
question.
questions. We're
No
going to get to
question.
Michael's in a second, but this just came through too. Can you give an example of how to release built up anger and how to release it in a healthy way?
Absolutely. There are healthy outlets. There are healthy outlets. For some of you who are angry, I'm going to tell you right now, I got a whole room of therapists. I got a whole room that's in the other room. And some of them come in different sizes and different shapes. I got those 45-pound plates. I got those 20. I got the bars. I got the dumbbells. I'll tell you right now, if you get you a good, solid push-out workout, channel your anger. If you channel your anger into a positive outlet like exercise, that does give you a massive endorphin rush. It pushes a lot of stuff out, and it also works towards you looking and feeling better. Your confidence goes higher because you feel better and look better. It's a double win. Is there a positive outlet? Yes. No matter how angry I've gotten at my weights, they've always understood. Now, some of you have injuries. Some of you are like, I can't do those. I can't do that thing. Are there other ways that you can channel your anger? There are rage out techniques, or there's other options that you can go ahead and push it out. You have to have a release. I know sometimes some of the guys will go in the car and just scream their minds out. Let the volcano erupt, but don't attack your pack. Really, really, really important. Don't attack your pack. This is where we mess up our volcanoes and we start to hurt the people we love the most, because there's an unmet need that we don't understand. And so we start to take it out on other people. So that's very important. Try and find a way, whether it be some sort of release, but it is a release. Important to know that there has to be a release. Now, some people go into their breathing techniques. I'm going to be very open with you guys. Hasn't been my greatest strength there. It's going, let me just do breathing and meditation, not my style. Listen, I got to take it out somewhere. Just not on your pack. Figure out what that is. I don't know if that means you have to go and lift something heavy, if you got to punch a punching bag, something that's designed to be hit, not a human. You know, I don't know about you guys, but punching pillows doesn't do it for me. It's got to be something that's got some weight to it. So get a punching bag if you need it. Find something that makes it so I can feel good letting it out. And once you release that, then you're almost, if you get a really good push, like I'm a Zen master after that. Talk about anything you want. You know what I mean? Like, so there's positive outlets. Sometimes some people are able to have different control levels depending on the type of anger you have. And if you are able to get into some form of even angry writing, sometimes that can be helpful. And you're probably going to have more of a outburst thing, but it does help to sometimes just get it out. And I think that's the important thing is, remember, suppression leads to expression. You're going to blow up at some point. So make sure you blow up on something that works for you and not against you. Because if you hurt your kids or you hurt your spouse because you can't control it, there's a heavy price tag to this. It's a lot heavier than if you take it out on punching bag or some weights, I'll tell you that. But this is just recognition of, like when Ryan was talking about, do you recognize all of your things? I'm getting heated. I'm getting warm. My blood is pumping right now. My breathing's getting shallow. I can see all the things, all these signs are coming up. Will you have a choice before you start unloading on your people? Let me just I got to take a little bit. I got to remove myself from this. Let me just knock some steam off and let's talk about it. And then later, can we please get to what the unmet need was? There was something that I needed there that wasn't happening. And can we please listen to understand without judgment? Blame, shame, and judgment is what kills health. It kills the healing aspect of what it is that people are going through. And if we start tearing the people that we love down instead of building ourselves up, we're failing our pack. These are our people. And so don't attack your pack. If you can take it out in some positive way, find it. Find your way. Punching bag, writing, working out. You got guys in here who are doing throwing axes, throwing knives. I don't care what it is. If it's something that you can go, oh, and it goes towards a positive outlet that doesn't hurt your people, do that. Some of you run. Some of you do, like there's some way. Acupressure is different. You're so funny.
It does help.
Yeah, but I don't know if you can go like, I'm raging out, time for acupressure. I'm so angry. I'm going to acupressure. Listen, maybe put some Zen music on. I don't know what you need. But this is part of our journey. Each of us is a different warrior type. Some of us have different types of outlets. Some of us are Hulks and some of us are volcanoes. You got to figure out what you are and how you handle it and find your outlets that work for you, but try and channel it into something that can be motivating or positive. You know, and sometimes, yeah, I see guys talk about we have the dark wolf and the light wolf in us. It's a good idea to be able to know, like, sometimes you can feed your dark wolf, but just don't hurt your pack. And I think that's the moral or the lesson to this question is don't hurt your people just because you have an unmet need and you don't know how to express it. How do you learn who you really are? It's not found in books. It's found on the battlefield.